And they see a young generation of people coming of age who are certain to participate in making the city center a real public domain of cultural identity, of difference, of tolerance of a variety of cultures and races. They want lively boulevards, not boring streets without trees, and lots of plants. They have a whole city on Zhuhai. So, what happens is, the city listened. The city council, the democratically elected city council listened, and the mission of the city changed from being a functionalist city to a participatory city. Everyone participates in planning the city. And the result is a high consensus urban renaissance movement that a lot of citizens actually were enthused. Imagine themselves opening doors for the taxi driver at the hotel door. So some of these things some of these problems still remain. There is white-collar services, cultural industries, but these new jobs are available to the new middle-class people who come back into the city, but not available to those who are unemployed in the inner city port area. And all this idea of culture-led city marketing lead the city to focus on developing this side of its positive side. But it also allows the city to avoid facing its negative side. This whole enthusiastic citywide culture-led city promotion allows the city mainstream mentality to avoid facing problematic aspects of its urban problems. They only see the positive side of the cultural climate as a promotional device. And there are two cases, two different spaces in Rotterdam that you can look further in. One is the cultural triangle, or the green triangle, which is an area for culture and recreation. And the other area is the Waterstaat for maritime tourism, water tourism. And the major cultural policy to regenerate the city center is through creating Festival Rotterdam. It is every year creating this Festival Rotterdam to make the city a stage of a lot of cultural events, and it was done since 1988. Again, the city council, like our legislative council and district council merged in one, democratically elected. They organized major cultural festival, official and performing arts, and created out of this process over 40 years 4 cultural districts. Not just one West County, but 4. Rotterdam Waterstaat is like this. It is a traditional harbor that is reconstructed by turning warehouses into museums and restaurants, cinema complex, 4-star hotel, but it attracts back the shipping industry headquarters. This time, ocean liners, cruises, and so forth, and luxury apartments, large middle-class residential areas, public facilities like the Central Library, ample open markets and street culture, and well-integrated public space. And what used to be an urban motorway, like all the roads along the shore of Hong Kong, the best parts of Hong Kong are mostly roads. And it was like that in Rotterdam. But these urban motorways are now recreated into boulevards with lots of street furniture for people to sit and play and to keep the public staying around the coast. And this Rotterdam Waterstaat revitalization created a new center of fashion, design, and leisure cultural industries, which was quite successful. And because it also built a school, a fashion college right there. And what is interesting is it did not demolish the old Rotterdam. In the old Rotterdam, there were also these tenement housing and also very narrow streets with pencil-like shaped apartments, like Tanglo. In the Blue House area, Tanglo is just one flight of stairs, one apartment every floor, very narrow. So this pencil-shaped apartments was actually kept, 1970s, not old at all. Changwon was built in the 1950s. But in Rotterdam, their pencil-shaped apartment buildings built in the 1970s is considered historical heritage, safe from demolition by public-private partnership, and lots of jobs were created by making adaptive use of these kinds of architecture. This is one example in comparison with Buchhaus. The other example is the cultural triangle. It is originally already a museum and a cultural district, but they built a bigger cultural district around it. They created a new National Institute for Architecture, and that won Rotterdam the title of the City of Architecture Museum. And they used two central boulevards as cultural axes, and all cultural activities along that. And they created financial and material incentives to set up, to make cultural institutions come into the area, right? Financial and material incentives to set up galleries, art shops, and artist studios. And they actually allow this kind of cultural infrastructure to build up. But they did something that failed, but the city liked its failure. Okay. The city government tries to clean up the subcultural environment of nightclubs. They try to clean up the nightclub side of Wanchai, the nightclub side of Longhong area, They try to clean up the subcultural environment of nightclubs, but fail to change the character of that district, and the city's population actually happy about that. The problem with this whole pretty successful gesture was that it was restricted to high culture and consumption, high consumption and high culture, and entrepreneurial culture, like international film festivals. And it also has something like Hong Kong's Arts Development Council. It has the Rotterdam Arts Foundation for programming and allocating subsidies. Now, in the 1970s, after all these things started, the people of Rotterdam actually were not too happy with some of the things happening. And they demanded the city council, which was responsible for planning. So it is like a completely democratically elected district council being responsible for planning, not a closed-door planning board. And the citizens marched to the city council and said, give the city back to the citizens. And the city council agreed. The city council actually said, okay, yes, why not? Let's stimulate local debates on the city's future. And the plans of the experts were thrown out the door, and popular participation came in since the 1970s. And the citizens decided we're not going to learn from Paris or Vienna or first-tier cities. We should learn from other second-tier cities. And they also decided, through participation, that they're not going to restrict the architectural styles of the city, like functionalist city as Le Corbusier and so forth. They want architecturally anything goes, so long as it is expressive, because the people think expressive architecture is a concept that actually makes people want to be there, and it's the kind of architecture that revitalizes a city. So they, as a city together, people in participatory planning decided that they're going to throw the idea of the functionalist city out and bring in the idea of the expressive city. It's a radical